Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Concerns have been raised as the first details have emerged concerning Labour's review of the English school curriculum announced by the Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson just days after taking office in July. The Department for Education's terms of reference for the review, revealed by The Telegraph last week, state that the updated curriculum should refresh what is taught in England's schools. With this, Phillipson wants to breathe new life into the outdated curriculum. Our proposals, including calls to decolonise subjects, branded monocultural. Teaching unions are calling for subjects like English literature to be less traditional and more diverse. I'm not even sure what that means. Does that mean replace English with French? I don't know. I'm delighted to welcome the executive head teacher of the Wootton Academy Trust, Mark Lehane. Mark, welcome.
Thank you.
This is what governments do. This is nothing new. They come into power and they go, we're going to change the education curriculum. Arguably, one of the better things that the Tory government did was with education, wasn't it?
Yeah, and obviously I'm biased because up until the election, for a few years, I was a special advisor in the Department for Education. But most importantly, I've been a teacher on and off since 2003. I'm a third-generation teacher, and genuinely schools are a whole lot better now than they were 30 years ago. It's been progress over a number of different governments. And I guess the key thing I'd be saying to the audience and to viewers at home is, if you were to ask science teachers, do you think we should add more stuff into the curriculum, they'd laugh at you, because talk to a science teacher, it's jam-packed, the chemistry, biology, physics curriculum. There's almost too much in there. We need to take stuff out, not add stuff into it. But the other thing I would say is to reassure people is what we're hearing at the moment is what different organisations are proposing the government should do to the curriculum. Bridget Phillipson and her team haven't decided yet. They've got a group of experts, some from schools, some from teacher training places, some from universities, looking at what should go in there. So the big decision is still to be made. What should go in and what should come out?
But
so we've got to watch this space.
Experts there could be the argument that some of them are ideologically driven. The person who I believe is leading the project herself criticised Blair's government as focusing too much on exam results or academic excellence or something like that, surely that's the purpose of teaching, is to get those results.
No, absolutely is, but there's also some really great people on that group of experts they've got, and I happen to know some of them because of the work I've done in the last few years. So I think we just have to wait and see what they do first. But there's another really important thing that people need to know about what's going to happen after this review. In parallel, the government are going to introduce a new law. They're going to introduce a bill to Parliament this Wednesday that, for the very first time since the national curriculum was introduced, it will be compulsory for every single state school to follow it. So at the moment, academies and free schools, schools that are funded by the government but are run by charitable trusts like my one or the one I set up back in Bedford a few years ago, if they want to divert from the national curriculum, they can do that. That's fine. For the first time ever, once this law is passed, every single state school will have to follow the national curriculum. So whatever Bridget Phillipson and her team decide is going to be in science, is going to be in maths and English, we will all have to follow it. There will be no variation, there'll be no way of escaping it, unless you've got the money to go private.
So why are the government pushing through this bill then?
Well, they would argue it's about levelling up, it's about making sure there is a minimum standard in every school. People like myself that work in the system or have worked around the system for years can see the benefits we've had for over 30 years of having that flexibility. But what I would say is they were democratically elected. They've got the right to do this. The question is whether they should be doing it and whether they're going to do the right things.
Yeah, I mean, it might not impact that many people. My children actually do go to a free school. Part of the attraction of sending them to that school was the fluidity of the curriculum, in that there was some level of control in terms of what they would learn and focus on. And if I was unhappy with that, I could then change schools. But now it seems like those options are now gone.
That's right. They're going to take that away, that freedom away, along with the freedom as a head teacher in terms of, because I run an academy trust, I can employ people on different contracts in terms of conditions, and I can employ different kinds of people that might not have the usual qualifications. I also opened a free school. I was very lucky in Bedford. I opened Bedford Free School in 2012. One of the joys of that was being able to create a curriculum from scratch that was full of what we considered to be the very best stuff kids could and should learn. And we will, once this law has been passed, remove the right to do that.
Yeah. Reading, I agree that that's a huge story. I just want to get back to this particular point of it, though, is that when I read this article, it was, I think, in The Telegraph originally, they talked about the Royal Society of Biology, the Royal Statistical Society, the Institute of Physics. It read to me like these organisations devoted to science were institutionally captured. The rubbish that they were all pointing out, like, this is what we're going to now talk about, this is what we're going to focus on, rather than the basics of science which they were set up to promote, it was like, wow, I can't believe this is still happening.
No, but let's be honest. Is it a big surprise that these institutions that aren't on the front line have been captured by some of these ideas? Not really. Most of academia has already been captured by, woke ideas, or call them what you like. The really interesting thing is when you get into schools, when you talk to people that are actually working with kids and are actually thinking hard about what to teach them, that's not what they're interested in. It's the same with the teaching unions, I'm afraid. Like, there are very good reasons why teachers want to be in a union, but when you listen to what the trade unions are saying about what schools should do, it's completely disconnected to what most teachers would say, whether it's about behaviour or what you teach and so on.
But that's the danger, isn't it? That you have, for example, the trade unions, they do have a voice in this process.
Yep.
And arguably those voices may influence in a negative way our children's education.
Yeah, at the moment it's really clear. If you're a parent and you've got a question about why your child is being taught something or how we're doing something, it's really clear who you talk to. You come and talk to me because it's my decision. Once this law's been changed and the national curriculum's been updated, I'll be saying, sorry, it's not my choice. So it's down to the government.
What can sort of normal human beings do when we want to have some kind of say in what our children or how their education or what they're taught? Apart from voting in a different government.
So the call for evidence that the government put out in terms of this review about what should go in, that's closed now, and the expert group and ministers will be working through that. There'll be a lot of civil servants working on it as well. So our chance to submit ideas as to what should go in or come out that's passed. Mm-hmm. I think what we've got to do is let that process run now. But alongside that bill is only going to be introduced into Parliament on Wednesday. We need to be encouraging our MPs to look really closely at what powers the government are taking, which they've never had before. And we need to be lobbying our MPs and our other representatives to try and do the best thing by that.
Because we've seen that when you just kind of trust people to just get in, even with the best of intentions, of course, then you have ideologies put through the school system, and in my case, in terms of gender ideology, trans ideology, taught to our kids, and you just assume that it wouldn't happen, and suddenly your kids are coming home and saying, there are 100 sexes, Daddy. That's something that genuinely happened to me.
Yeah, and I think whilst we can trust most people working with young people to want to do the right thing, you're always going to need fallbacks. You're always going to need safety nets, aren't you, to try and protect them. But in terms of the curriculum, as you said already, one of the protections we've had until now is that if the school wasn't doing something you're happy with, as a parent, you could go and talk to the head or the teachers to see why. Now we'll largely be delivering what politicians have decided. Listen, they won the election. It's hard for someone like me to accept this because I really love the fact that we can design the curriculum from scratch, but they legitimately won the election. They were very clear well before the election that if they got in, they would change the law to do this, and it's exactly what they're doing. So we need to think hard about how we make the best of it.
I guess we're going to be revisiting this story as
it's going to run and run.
Well, brilliant. Thank you so much. Mark Lehane, thank you very much for coming in.